All right. Hello, Victor. Welcome to the stream for October 20th, and hopefully the audio goes a little better this week than it did last week. That was quite the little bit of business there. I was sort of sad to learn after the last stream that the audio was all weird. And if you follow me on my other channel, linked down below in the description area of these live streams, then you'll know that uh, in my other channel, I had a couple of videos ready to go. One for yesterday because I release videos every Monday, and when I did all the recording ahead of time after the live stream, and I just needed to do a little bit of tidy editing, and discovered that the audio for all of those recordings was also similarly screwed. And then what proceeded was I got a new headset. I think it was actually the mic part of this, which is replaceable. But the only way to replace it in the short term was to get a whole new version of the headset. So the video that went out on the channel and the other channel was a little different than what was intended. But hey, we totally cracked 1,000 subscribers on that channel. So whoopoo! So it seemed like it was worth a little divergence for that as well. And everything seems to be cool, unless you count that I think the monitor on my laptop, my MacBook, it's got one weird line of dead pixels down the center. Anyway, do let me know if the audio seems to be all crunky tonight. This is a newer revision of the existing hardware, so hopefully all is cool. And yeah, I don't really have too many firm plans for what to do this evening. I have two different kinds of coffee here ready to go. And what with the super hassles of running around on the weekend trying to find any place local that could sell me audio hardware so that I could get back to recording videos and doing a live stream and doing that video recording for the other thing, I thought, why not just have a nice Slack thing here. So we got a couple ideas for Sublime Text plugins, such as they are, not necessarily anything that would make my life in Sublime better. Well, one of them. The other one is just sort of to make my video editing life better. And then we see where the mood takes us, I should say. And let me close this thing too before we get too far along the line there. And yeah, I think we should probably be good to go. I would think everything seems to be in working order here. I use my MacBook as the live control room and an iPad down there. If you haven't seen the video that I released on the other channel, uh, go check it out. You can see a little bit of my work layout here and how that area behind my head back there is eventually going to be the dedicated recording area, which means I'll have a nice tripod up there. All I'll have to do is bring in a laptop and plug it in a couple of cables and life is good. Whereas here on the desk, I have to set up the camera, set up the laptop, run power cables for both of them around, figure out a routing for the HDMI cable that connects the camera to a monitor to my left so that I can monitor what I'm doing, get the recording setup connected to this monitor, which requires yet another HDMI cable. It is a giant pain in the butt. So I was mourning not only the loss of the recorded footage and the loss of the live stream audio from last week, but all that time spent recording a thing that I was pretty happy with, and then realizing that it was all for naught. So, but we forge ever onward. And then I push the appropriate button down here on the old iPad. Good news, the audio monitoring is working again, and I might be slightly deaf now. I think that's a little loud. I think it's a little loud in general, but for some reason, OBS does not have the ability to modify things on the fly, and I have to recreate that video clip, so I haven't gotten around to that yet. In any case, hello, fellow Sublime Text Fanatics. OdatNurd here. Welcome to the live stream for tonight, and if you missed the introduction, what we're going to be doing tonight is just sort of some random stuff. As a matter of fact, we can see here in the background, I actually released a version 2.2.2 of Override Audit earlier today with some changes that we've been working on in live streams over the past few months. The last release was actually in February, and I promised myself that I wasn't going to let things go more than 6 months without a release. But let's pretend that this whole COVID operation sort of threw a monkey wrench in the plans. Um, so the plan for tonight is twofold. One thing that I'd like to do is I currently use a package called File Manager, but the only thing I use it for is this. If I want to delete a file and it asks me, uh, do I want to confirm that or cancel, and then it sends it to the trash. And if I do this, new file relative to current view, I get this little panel down here at the bottom of the window where dollar here is the path of the current location, and then you can type any sort of path and file name, and it'll create such a file and open it for you. Those are really the only two things that I use this package for, and I find a lot of errors. I mean, none right now, but historically, for things in that particular package doing stuff a little crunky. So I thought that seems like a great opportunity to just create a simple plugin for the couple of things that I use that for, and then I don't even need that package anymore. And also, I use Camtasia as all my for my screencast video recordings for my other channel because its capturability is lossless, which is nothing I can say about any other things that I've tried. And also, when it comes to actually editing, its ability to pan and scroll and throw annotations and stuff up on the screen is really second to none for all the things I've tried. Certainly, it's not something that I couldn't do in, say, HitFilm Pro, which I also use for editing camera footage, or Vegas or what have you. But the the interface for doing things that you generally do in a screen recording like that is just I find a lot easier in Camtasia. But one of the problems with it is um, its ability to export a table of contents for the current video based on markers you put on the timeline is 100% controlled by the export format that you provide. You have to send it out to its own thing or allow it to upload to YouTube. And I was doing that for a while, and then I discovered that the quality actually started suffering quite badly. Not too long ago, but the last 5 or 6 months, the quality of whatever their preset is for their YouTube upload dropped, I found, and the quality was not very good. Now, unfortunately, I didn't notice it until it was too late. So I'm doing it a different way now, and I lost the ability to do that. But I can get that information out of the project files itself, which are just JSON files. And I've been doing it manually for the last few weeks. But it occurs to me, why not make a plugin for that sort of thing? But before we proceed with that, there's something that we would like to fix. Because if we do this and look at the main menu, um, and I happen to do like a little search here for, say, view. You can see this particular build of Sublime has this weird selection issue thing, which only happens to files that have tabs inside of them. And this is something that was introduced in this actual build, but I just downloaded just before the stream started. It occurred to me while I was out walking my pooch in just before the stream started, the latest build dropped. So this seems like a great opportunity to get that. We won't do it that way. We'll do it this way instead. So I'm going to just very quickly jump into that. So if I go here, I can extract. I have a directory named Sublime in my home directory that has all the versions of text and all of the versions of merge all the way back to the very first Sublime Text 3 builds, 3012 or 3013 or something, for Windows and Linux, because those are my two main platforms. And what actual build would this be? 4090, I presume, right? Because this one's 4088, 4089. Doo-doo. Yeah, okay. And that's just because I'm a data hoarder, and often if I find a bug in something, I will zoop back through various builds to see if I can track where it might have actually started, if it's something that I've never noticed before, in case it was a regression. Plus, it's just nice to be able to test things in older versions because the packages that I create, I generally specify the minimum version. I like to actually test it in those versions to make sure things are cool. So if we extract this, that should be 4090, and then we can move that to local, and we'll go ahead and quit that before we do something untoward. Remove. Oh. remove Sublime Text and link it. Shoot. Forgot that part. Well, we can take that part out now. Ironically, I've been doing this for 3 years. Whenever there's a new version of Sublime, I extract it out into this folder and create a symlink. If I was to do this, we can see just how many versions of text and merge I actually have sitting here for me to be able to swap. And all I got to do is change that symlink. I finally got around to creating a shell script that does all of the work of looking for the build and downloading it and extracting it and all of that stuff. And then a couple of months later, the Sublime Text 4 build started coming out, and they changed the file name of the file so that they don't have Sublime Text 3 in them because it's not going to have version numbers anymore. Uh, so it doesn't work for these builds. So now I gotta wait until I think they're probably gonna do something different with it and then modify the script again. Okay, fix the selection rendering regression. So let's try that again. Oh yeah, that's better. Uh, I don't generally use physical tab characters for anything. I prefer spaces. I'm one of those guys. So I figured, yeah, this isn't an issue that's going to actually hit me. And then I opened this up to work on a problem for somebody, and turns out, yes, this is in fact going to haunt me, if you will. So let's go ahead and create, whoops, a new window. We'll close this one. Create a new plugin for that, and we'll call this Camtasia Talk, like so, just to have something going. And let us also open said file like so. So this is a Camtasia project file itself, which is actually JSON, so I should probably fiddle that, huh? Does that come under its own thing? That no, it's under JavaScript, isn't it? No, it's not. Oh, yeah, it's this one here. Boop, there. Yeah, it looks a little bit nicer. This is actually similar to something that I have installed on that laptop there for work stuff, because we're working on a web application and we're using Okta as a login scheme. And as a part of that, you get a JavaScript web token, JWT, that has various information in it that identifies the user. And we have a lot of web services that require just the token. So we do a lot of testing that requires pulling the token out. So what I actually did was created a command that detects when the content of a pasted buffer is that copied string, and then it formats it nicely so that you can see it, pulls out the token, copies it to the clipboard. And oh, hello, Ashwin. Ashwin says, I actually have scripts that downloads and extracts the default dir into a folder and diffs between various files to see what's changed. I actually have a similar thing to that as well. I think, well, we've probably noticed that before. It's something that Terminal, I think in the Discord, took a copy of and is using for his web page that's tracking the API. My version pulls the files for the plugin files directly, I should say, not just the default package. It only does it for plugin files to figure out what endpoints are new in different versions and when they were added. For the purposes actually of adding them into HyperHelp, I had the idea that all of the API information in Snappy should include what build of Sublime it was originally added in, and then I decided maybe that might make it a little bit too busy to look at. Although there is some of that stuff in there now. So I think I've fallen on the side of doing it the same way that the official documentation is going to do it, where there's development builds and there's not, and then there's some of the items are annotated with when they were added and everything else is legacy. I think I'm going to pull that off. But I like the idea of actually diffing the default directory to see what's in there. Do you do that for all packages that have plugins and stuff, or just default? Off the top of my head, the only one that comes to mind is HTML. I think CSS might also have a plugin in it too for completions, but I'm not 100% sure. But that'd be kind of neat to see, what all is changing in that regard. Now, for the purposes of this, This JSON object has this timeline key in it, which has various things. And then inside of parameters is table of contents. I'm not entirely sure why type is string on this particular thing, but this keyframes is what we're after. And all of these objects represent a marker on the timeline in a Camtasia project. And it occurs to me now I probably should have taken a screenshot of this to pop up in here to point this out, but uh, too little, too late. We can always throw that in a little bit later or something. But basically, anywhere along the timeline, you can add a marker. You can use those to make like make notes for yourself. This is the place where I'm going to cut to the footage of the desk behind there, or zooming in on the subscriber count because we cracked 1,000. That still surprises me every time I say that. Or you can use it to add navigation points. Or one of the things that Camtasia can do is take the information on these, which is a textual string and a time code, and use it to generate a table of contents. And if you send stuff up to screencast.com, it generates a smart player web page that includes the table of contents. And if you use their preset to upload directly to YouTube, when it uploads it, the video description has the time code and then the text of the marker, which uh, I should have been doing way back when, but I never really got into it until YouTube made the change where the play bar is actually segmented to show you the chapters of the video. So now definitely do that and try to find logical places to break them because it makes it easier to find and link to specific parts of videos. So one of my projects is to go back through all my videos and throw those in. Um, but there's a few problems with that. One is, as I said in the introduction, Camtasia's upload of this stuff, the quality dropped somewhat, and uh, it does it where it uses the same API that I use in my YouTuberizer package to be able to talk to the YouTube data API and pull stuff down, but where I never hit the API limit because I don't look at my own videos 10,000 times an hour. As a corporate entity, they hit that a lot. So often, what I find even before was you click the button, you wait 15, 20 minutes for the video to render out, and then it throws some weird esoteric error because the YouTube upload failed because they reached their quota on the API and they couldn't talk to it anymore. And then you got to manually upload the thing anyway. So I figured, why not just encode it myself with my own preset, give it a higher quality. It takes a little bit longer to upload, but you get better quality. Downside is you don't get this table of contents, which you wouldn't be able to get anyway if it didn't successfully upload the thing. We actually need JSON in this. I don't think we do. I don't think we do. And this definitely should be a text command. So let's call this, say, Camtasia get, let's say contents. I want to say TOC, but as all capital letters, that's going to make a funky command name. Although, I don't know if I mentioned this, in the last stream at the beginning, I pointed out, maybe I should actually show that too, as a matter of fact. If we go to browse command list, this is the thing that we were working on in the last stream. And this is one of the things that was shown as a problem that has since been fixed, the tooltips on these things. So we can pick these various things and then hit, and it'll, dog's been barking at the hallway all night. Actually navigate you to the command here. If I did user browse, I said, is that not what that's called? No, it's not in user. Browse.py, this one. So notice I have two of them here. I have Command Browser and Command Browser 33. Command Browser 33 is a separate package that's a symlinked copy of the browse.py plugin from this file here, and it doesn't have the file that runs it in the 3.8 plugin host. So I said in the beginning of that stream that one of the things you can do in a command is override the name method, and then you can change the name of the command. But the default implementation is the one that turns the camel case version of the class name into the snake case thing. I've never really, except for trying it to see that I could do it, I never really came up with a reason to actually do it. And then later after the stream, I totally came up with one because very quickly If this command runs in the 3.8 host, then it asks the 3.8 plugin host, what commands do you know about? And the only commands that it can find are other plugins that are running in the 3.8 host, which is, default and all those other packages that ship with Sublime that have plugins in them. But it can't see any 3.3 commands because they're in a different plugin host. And similarly, if you ran the thing in the 3.3 plugin host, it would see all of those, but it wouldn't see default and the commands in HTML and stuff. So if there are any, I just happen to know that has a plugin in it. So neither of those is particularly cool, and that's sort of the reason behind why if you use package dev and you use its auto completion for commands, it doesn't always show you all of them because it's running in a different plugin host than some of the other commands. So some of the default commands that aren't in the core are just lost. So I came up with the idea of this can determine if it's legacy if it's running in a Python version 3 less than 3.8, which right now would be 3.3. And then the name of the command would be browse commands underscore 33 if this is a legacy plugin. Otherwise, the version of the name that this would actually be. And the first thing it does is gather all of the commands. And then if it's legacy, it executes the non-legacy one and passes it the argument with the dictionary that it came with or that it calculated. And so this used to be command dict equals empty dict. Now it actually takes it as an argument and sets it up like so. The command palette entry executes the legacy one. The legacy one gathers all of the commands from Python 3.3 plugins. Then it calls into the version of this that's running in the new host, which just tacks on extra commands, and they're all deduped because this is a dictionary, even though I'm pretty sure there shouldn't really be any overlap there anyway. And then it can populate the whole list, and life is dandy. So I could, if I wanted to, implement name in this, but I really fall on that side of never really doing that. And I have to think it's probably not a particularly great idea either. Um, let's do this for the time being because I don't want to modify this file per se. And we want to know if this command is enabled or not. And let's say file name is not none. And self.filename ends with .tscproj for TechSmith Camtasia project, I guess. I'm kind of surprised that this isn't an XML file, to be perfectly honest. The idea there is it's the simplest possible thing. For the other plugin that I talked about before, where this actually gathers information from a JWT token that I pasted in there and expands it out, that one checks the string to see if it looks like looks like JSON that has that key, so that it only applies in the one case. Because I copy it out of the browser and paste it in here out of the dev tools, but I'm never gonna open this file up in like Notepad or something and copy it and paste it in here, so there's no reason to do that. So we're going to know if that's the case. So we can say data is equal to sublime.decode value of yeah, that's right, self.view.substring of len self.view. Is that the shortest possible way to write that out? I'm not sure. We're also going to want to throw that into the command palette, I'm guessing. VPF user default commands. Okay. And what would this be? Get Camtasia talk. And I've already forgotten the name of that. Camtasia get contents. Oops. And this is an example of that command not appearing in the autocomplete because this plugin is in my user package, which always runs in the Python 3.8 host. That reminds me, we totally noticed that weird thing where if you add a Python version file to your user package, plugins don't load correctly. We should probably report that if it hasn't been reported. Somebody make a note of that because I just remembered that now. That was some weird business. Doesn't appear in that one. That's exactly what I would expect. Whoops. What if we actually did this? Did I break it? Oh, maybe I should. Oh no! I added a bug to my thing there. Hang on, let me fix that real quick. What line is this? 180. I forgot. I refactored this slightly. This used to basically there were two places that had this window.run command business here. I moved it up into a function so that it's called in a couple of places. It's called uh, there when you actually pick it if the file is already open, and then down there as well. Because it bothers me to have code that specific in more than one place. As I like to say, better than even odds, the instant you do that, you're going to decide this needs to be two lines and you're not going to remember to fix it in all of the places. Not that I've been bitten by that a ton of times, but the problem with this is I don't know how to spell, so that should solve that problem, I would think. No, still no. Let's see. Let's verify that something works there. Oh, is this one broken too? Son of a... I swear. It's really turning into one of those weeks. Audio still sounds good, right? I mean, I spent a bunch of time testing prior, but I did that last time too, and that did not work out very well for me. Beauty. All right. It is at this point in the proceedings that I think that if I had something like JSON path as a dependency, I could short circuit having to say what I'm about to do here. I don't care about the source bin. Data, timeline. Perfect. Thank you, Michael. Also, hello. I spent a bunch of time. This is OBS version 25.0.8. There's a version 26 that's out where finally VST support for Linux is baked in by default. So I thought I'd give that a jingle because I do own Reaper, and then I could use the same post-processing on the headset as I do for other things, and it would sound a little better. But because there's no EQ built into this by default. But it turns out that my experiments with building my own version of OBS and adding that plugin, it never worked. It just seg faulted, and I assumed maybe the plugin I added wasn't ready for prime time. But it turns out it just sort of blows up on all VSTs that I was able to throw at it. So there's something more going on there, but I didn't really have time to dig into it. Let's see. Timeline is this object, and then parameters, and then talk. Whoops. As a hack. And you know what? I should really throw that on a key binding. Let's do that over here. User lin key map. Have you tried Subble in WSL? I have not. I've never actually played with the WSL thing in Windows at all. It's one of those things that's on my to-do list because clearly I'm a Linux dude, but I know there's various issues with things crossing the boundaries and file name mappings. It's one of the semi common questions that people have on Stack Overflow with things not quite mapping correctly. And those are always, is this the right one? Yeah, it is. Those are sort of sorts of things that I want to jump in and play with that a little bit so that I can answer people's questions. Similarly, I don't use the LSP package. I just sort of tend to use I'll use Super T for this. I just tend to use what's built into Sublime for this sort of thing. But I should probably, I want to install that and play around with a little bit and get used to configuring it so that I can ask questions. And of course, that's one of those things that's definitely going to be handy to have a video about. That worked. But I haven't gotten there yet. And my rationale for that is I'm sort of waiting for Sublime 4 to be, well, Sublime, I guess, to be finalized. Because I'm imagining that there's maybe a little bit more work that they might want to do, sort of like myself in my HyperHelp package. I have some things I want to do there, but I'm waiting for package control to support the new dependency format, so I can modify everything on the fly that way. Ashwin says it's just the defaulter. I refer to the API tracker as far as the API goes. I do the same for merge. Oh, until I forgot that merge has 2 default directories. Yeah, that whole merge 2 default packages really throws me for a loop sometimes. Like I need to look in both of them and then just do a little double check about which one is which. Okay, so we're now gathering the magic keyframe information out of here. Actually, we could take this one more time, couldn't we? And then that would be even cooler. And we should probably have this in one of these actions. I'm imagining that the file format is probably not going to change too hardcore from one day to the next. Is this less readable than using JSON path to try to pull the thing out? I guess theoretically, if you used that, you could extract just the information out of these records that we're actually interested in. I don't think that's right. It's window that is deprecated, or not deprecated, right? Yeah. Oops. The Sublime version is deprecated. Don't use that one. Cool. Let's go ahead. So we want self.view.window error extracting talk data, just so that that can be in there if something happens. What happens if I do this? Does it blow up in a way where we get to see the status message? Oh, how about now? Oop. Oh, all right. I did the same thing last stream too, didn't I? I think I did. Error extracting talk data. Swank. I don't really care what the error is. I'm pretty sure that the reason is that I'm a moron. And it'll be pretty obvious when it happens. So with that out of the way, whoops, pardon me. This headset arrangement is not the best. I managed to replace my other headset with a duplicate, which was hard fought because Amazon doesn't sell these things anymore. Various other stores do, but none of them really have any in stock. I managed to find one store that had 2, but by the time I got there, they only had 1, and we just happened to arrive there at like 11:05, and they opened at 11 because we were going to be in the area doing stuff anyway. But this cord is so curly. I don't remember with the other one spending like an hour trying to stop it from being in a tight 1-inch curl, but man, it really wants to be round. Now, I guess we could look over in this one. Each one of these keyframe items is this, and the only parts of this we care about are the time and the value. And I also learned that the time value, although it says time, it's not actually time, it's frames. So for example, this time of 2:53, I'm a little unclear why there's an end time there, because as far as I can tell, there's no way to have a marker that spans a part of the timeline. But who can say? Maybe they're reusing a data structure. But for 253 as a time at 30 frames per second, that's 8.43, and we can see that this is a marker that I added at 8 seconds and 13 frames. So, if we were to figure out what 0.43 was of 30, that's going to be your 13 there. That's how those all line up. And I actually have on my Windows laptop a key binding to the arithmetic command where I can select this number and hit the key and it'll expand it out into minutes, seconds properly formatted. But that requires me to, grab all of the items by time like this and then go down one and go over, expand the selections out to full lines, copy them, go into somewhere else, paste them, delete all of the random text. You can see why that's a big old pain in the butt. Speaking of pains in the butt, it would be cool if YouTube had a way to allow you to watch a video and just click a button and have it throw one of these things down in a window so you could create your own table of contents easily, since they seem to want that for chapters on things. But that's not really happening. Okay, so for entry in data, actually, maybe we want to let's do that just in case this file isn't actually valid JSON. And then we can say the talk is that. That'll look a little bit nicer, I think. Ashwin says, this build must be the one with the shortest changelog ever, I guess. Yeah, it might well be. I'm trying to think if there's ever been another build that fixed a single regression, but in recent memory, no. It seems like something that may have happened, but I always get excited when I notice that JPS and various other people, when John's on the stream, because that probably means that there's something exciting that's about to happen. Ooh. M. Ween is asking on the Discord, is there any way to hook into the goto definition command? It's not as complete as my C tags, but it works better than the C tags plugin. Yeah, I guess you'd have to override it, right? Or you could use a plugin event listener to get at it too. Testing that. There's our magic information. There's a bunch of stuff in here we don't technically need. So time is going to be entry, I guess just time. And text is going to be entry and value. Oops. Now, we guess what we want to do here is what I did for that other plugin I mentioned, which is put this information into the clipboard so I can paste it as sort of an insight into what I do when I'm working on a video. As it's uploading, I need to get all of the meta information ready for it. So I usually do something like this, pick a video, say for example, it's showing all the live stuff too, huh? Say this one. And that throws this up so we can see what the title was, what the body of the thing was, the tags, what the thumbnail for that particular video was when I did it. And then using this as the template, I modify stuff. So one of the things I have been doing is the thing where I come over here, gather all of this information, manually format it in a temporary buffer, and then I would come over here, select this text, and paste it over top. So if I can pull it directly out so I can paste it into this template, we're good to go. For added coolness for this, now that I think about it, we could actually make this even cooler without having to open the file first, because there's a new API for prompting for a file. Maybe we should investigate that next. I want to get this part working first. But we could use the new API so that I could actually have a command in here where when you hit it, it prompts you for the name of a project and just loads it and plops this directly in. That would actually be kind of cool. Also, I forgot that this version of this thing actually puts the thumbnail over here because the version I'm running on my laptop hasn't been updated yet. Little how the sausage is made, if you will, on my weird video process. I got quite a bit of action going on there behind the scenes with how I do stuff. Um, so we're going to want to, I guess, have all this text, right? So let's say uh, result is going to be something like that. And then simplistically, append something like this. Whoops. Just as a test text, if you will. Will automating these stuff directly on Python easy? Yeah, it's actually not too bad. This is actually something that I could just be a shell script. It doesn't really need to, or not a shell script, a Python script. It doesn't need to be in Sublime at all. But I always have Sublime running, so I really tend to use it as sort of a Swiss Army knife for all kinds of stuff. Then we want sublime.set clipboard. Whoops, for the result. Oh, actually, I don't need to do that. I forgot. We probably want this. Aye. Join on result. So in theory, if we hit this key, we don't see an error, then it has pulled all that information out exactly the way we want. Perfect. Yeah, Victor said you made Sublime an OS. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's not quite as bad as Emacs, which has everything and the kitchen sink inside of it. But if you spend all your time in a thing, and the devs are gonna make Sublime so easy and fun to extend for stuff like this, because I always say in my videos on the other channel there, it's one of the great things that I love about Sublime is how you can customize it to exactly how you like to work, or how you do work. Anyway, I don't necessarily like having to do this sort of thing. It would be nice if Camtasia just did it, but you take what you get sometimes. And we'll just throw one of these in here too. Clipboard, thusly. So if I did that, we can see it saying copied video talk to clipboard. Perfect. All right. So we need to modify the time here. So let's say time code is going to be, now I wish I could remember how I actually formatted this the other way. It's addictive to a point you may need rehabilitation. Yeah, well, maybe. Have I ever mentioned that I have an iPad that in the morning while I'm eating breakfast, I pull open and just double check that no questions need answering on the forum or on Stack Overflow, catch up on what happened, for the brief hours I was sleeping on the Discord before finishing breakfast and taking the dog for a walk. I don't have a problem. I could quit anytime. You have a problem. uh, I'm going to say, that's how you do that, right? Yeah. We're going to think that that's always going to be an int. We can sort of go hog wild with doing whatever we want here because we're going to catch the exception. So we'll be, nice citizens if something goes horribly wrong. And we're going to take that number and divide it by 30 so that what we end up with is some number of seconds. So the first number of this would be time divided by 60. What would the other one be? Time mod 60, theoretically? Something like yaw. And yeah, I know I could be using F strings, but I've been using, most of my experience with Python is actually since I started using Sublime. So I'm mostly just used to using Python 3.3, which doesn't have f-string support, so I'm not really in the habit of pulling that off. And I always feel kind of dirty using this format instead of using string.format or something along those lines. Oh, yeah, that'll work. Let's see what this gets us. All right, it's actually sort of what one would expect to see in there, except that this number needs to be formatted more smarterer. Is that how that works? Whoops. Sorry if I sounded directed at you. I was just saying ST is addictive once you get into it. Yeah, no, not at all. I was being a little facetious there. But yeah, it's once you realize you have the power to tweak things to get commands doing what you want or add something like this to make your life a little bit easier, you really just start looking for what else could I be doing with this thing? Besides teaching people how to do it and referring to my own videos sometimes, because sometimes I forget about, oh, yeah. Let's not leave that in there, huh? That's probably going to make it all unhappy like. Uh-oh. Okay, that's not how that works. Can we use the time package in Sublime as it's a built-in? You can indeed if you want to. Is there a method in the datetime class that would take some number of seconds and format it this way? Am I going about this the funky way? Uh, Most of the reason that I'm doing it this way, I should be looking at the camera and not at the chat. You can't see the chat when I'm looking over there. You're just looking at it. Most of the reason why I'm doing it this way is because I'm replicating how I augmented the arithmetic command in the command palette to be able to do something like that. Argument 2 must be a string. Oh, all right. Whoops. Oh, don't do that, bro. Looks like that's probably what I want. Let's try that. Cool. And that did not do as much as I thought it was going to do. I guess I should probably do this. Yeah. Add the number of seconds to midnight and then format the results. Hey, that's actually not a shabby idea. All right, so that does not entirely do what one might have expected. Let's try that. This is the first step, right? This is one of those things that I don't do super often. No, wait. Oh, now I'm flashing because the last time I did datetime stuff, I was in JavaScript or TypeScript. And there was other weird stuff happening there. Time offset, is that a thing? Actually, I suppose I could just click a button, couldn't I? Let's do this. What's the standard way to add some number of seconds? The other thing is you have to do is grab the number of seconds, right? And the answer is time delta. Yeah, that's the thing I was thinking of. So let's see. Give this the actual focus. Import datetime. So let's say datetime dot datetime. What's the constructor for this thing look like? You got to have an actual time first, right? And then add the time delta on. Days, seconds, then other fields. Let me just double check this here. That opens in a browser over here. Don't forget to add that comment when you say you imported daytime. Yeah. Sometimes, hopefully this is actually working. I've been trying to keep an eye on it, but I spent a bunch of time last night and stayed up way too late tweaking the lower thirds that pop up in the video, complete with a slide up, a flip, a slide down. Uh, and once I got it working the way that I wanted, I threw it in. Yeah, like that. Check that out. Wow, that's almost like I planned that, but I don't know. And it was way down at the bottom of the screen. So I spent a good 40 minutes trying to figure out how to move it up to be more even with the bottom of the camera window that I'm in, because over on that side. Because when I actually wrote that HTML was so long ago, I couldn't remember what magic incantation I'd used to actually get it to display down there, and everything I did made it jump to the top of the screen. So when I actually made the commit, I put a big comment in there that said, "Hey, dummy, this is how this works, okay?" Because I know I'm gonna want to tweak it in the future, and then I'm not gonna remember how to do it. So let's see. Time delta is seconds, then microseconds. That's easy enough. I just accidentally created a thing. I don't want time delta, man. I don't want today either. Where's this okay. Year, month, day? Do you have to specify that stuff? I suppose so, huh? Hmm. Funky. Year, month, day, hour, minute, seconds. Does it not? Oh, did I do it the other way? I did, didn't I? Ah, fudge. Well, okay. I guess that generated an object. Uh, plus, oh, shoot. I shouldn't have imported it that way, huh? I should have just said import date time and did it the other way. Well, okay, that totally worked. So how do you get the time out of one of these bad boys? Datetime from timestamp plus time delta. Oh, are you looking at Unix epoch times? That's actually kind of clever. Yeah, you can. I'll probably import it that way in the thing too. I don't like datetime and as a thing. It looks a little weird to me, although I don't know why it should. Various other things probably work the same way, right? Uh, how do you format a time? Return the local date and time. Oh, yeah. That might actually be a fancier way to do it. From timestamp 0 and end up with a time that's the epoch. Stirp time. Whoops. That's datetime dot stirp time. Oh, shoot. That's probably want to say that the other way, don't I? Yeah. Return to. Oh wait, that goes the other way. Shoot. Oh, what's the reverse of that? Stirp time. I should know that. Actually, been. No, huh? Replace now Well, hang on. Let me check this thing here. Replace now with the time for midnight. I'm not quite sure what you mean there. I would usually use something like, oh, did I call it wrong? Hang on. All support a stirf time format method. Broadly speaking, oh, there's a time.stirf time. Oh, I see. Datetime.time tuple. Is there enough classes in this to represent all the various dates and times? Fix that. Headache when it comes to dealing with time zones as a programmer. Yes, there's a video on YouTube by Tom Scott about time zones. I like to watch it every time something like this comes up. Print date time dot create midnight date here plus time delta. Oh, does printing it actually implement the actual? Is that not what this does? Let me just test this. All right. That's kind of what we want, but we don't want the date and the hours in there. It's only going to be minutes and seconds. That is not how that works. That's where I took this line. Oh. uh, Is it not? There's minutes in this thing. Oh, shoot. I'm I'm thinking of a different library. Something like yaw. Okay. Uh, this is one of those situations where this isn't the sort of thing I do regularly, but clearly the last time I was doing this was in a library that we created at work where something funky was going on. Let's say we add 2 seconds to that thing, and then if we do it, uh, uh, cool. Is there a way to create it? Hang on. UTC now plus time delta. Doesn't that get you the time for now, but we really just want to have the time be midnight? Yeah, I think this will do the thing. Oh, hang on a second. I just realized what all that beeping is. Hang on. Do something. A little personal business jumping in there. Pardon me. Yeah, okay. We're doing a thing for a friend, getting them a gift to celebrate a big milestone in their lives, and there's a bunch of chatter going on about it. Let's see. Michael Dawson says, I'm not at all versed in Python, but my Google foo is not too bad. I found stirf time with %m for minute and %s for second. Yep. I think that's what we got here. I don't know why I was thinking that this would do a thing, except that I think the last time I did something like this a couple of months ago, I was using a library that was rolled in house for doing some date manipulation, and that's how they were specifying it. And I thought it was kind of crazy at the time to be able to process that way. But embarrassingly, as a C developer, I should know stirf time backwards, forwards, and upside down. But clearly, that is not the case. But something like this is kind of what we want here. So we could say This is, oh, sorry. Let's just tweak this up real quick, like so. Nope, one more. Just for now, which is datetime dot, oops, datetime, da, 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 0 plus datetime dot time delta time, oh, 0 comma time, like so, and then we can say time, whoops, time, oh, actually, we don't even have to do that. We can just do this. Dot serve time %m %s. Take that one out. Add more brackets. Hello, transducer. Still unhappy? Okay. What did I fudge here? One too many? One too few. Right idea, wrong line. Yeah, it looks more right. Let's see. That didn't seem to do too much. Let's try that again. Oh, I see. This is why you should probably never eat exceptions. How about if I do it correctly? At most one argument. Oh. Right. That should go like that. Okay. There, that's better. And this one was at 0 seconds. This one was at 8 seconds and 13 frames. We don't care about 13 frames. We only care about full-on seconds. And this one was at 16 seconds. So that totally is doing what we want. Huzzah! And now it's ready to be blapped out of here and pasted into somewhere else. And if this wasn't Python, that would actually look not crazy. So that totally works as what we want to do. Now, I guess the other thing that we could do there, this is handy if you actually have the file open, but it would be handier to not do that. So, and I don't think this is anything that, oh, actually is in here. Swank. This is an example of something that I have actually included. So in build 4075, open dialog was added, which presents the user with a file dialog for the purposes of opening a file, and then it passes the resulting thing to the callback. So let's give that a test, shall we? And we'll do it this way. Because what we could actually do is have a command that prompts us for a file and then just opens it and does the same thing that we did here, but without it being in a text command, and put the stuff into the clipboard. And what we could even do is have it be part of my YouTuberizer package so that I can say insert table of contents and it would ask you for the file and just clam it in there. You should probably have a small huzzah animation when you get things right. You know, that is a pretty good idea, and I think I will take you up on that. I gotta think of a cool way to do that. A little fireworks explosion. There's a streamer that I have watched play a lot of YouTube. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he has a video clip of himself hitting himself in the forehead and going, duh, and something like that would come in pretty handy too. Probably more often than the other one. So let's see what we got here. Callback is going to be the first argument, so we'll throw something in there in a minute. Okay, file types is a specification of allowable file types. Should be a list containing 2 element tuples. So, and this is something that's probably going to be tricky to test on Linux because it doesn't have the same sort of file dialog box as Windows does. No. I may have mentioned one of the things that happened recently. I think I did mention this on a stream. I filled out not a quiz, but a questionnaire, a survey. There you go. That was more of a survey. I did a questionnaire just recently and won another gift card. But a little ways back, I did a survey thing for something in Camtasia and won a Amazon gift certificate. But because Camtasia is an American company, it was an Amazon.com thing, and I'm a Canadian, so I had to use it on the Amazon.com, and I ended up getting myself a little HDMI video capture device, which works ridiculously well. Just before the stream, I connected my main camera to it, and except for the part where it doesn't have the OBS didn't have the color correction, I'd have to dial that in a little bit more. It actually worked not bad. I actually considered having an alternate camera for the stream, but the little door on the side that has to flip out to put the HDMI cable in blocks the bottom right of my screen because there's not a lot of desktop here. Have you got monetized in main channel? I would love to contribute you. I have not yet, but theoretically that could be coming soon. In order to monetize, you have to have 1,000 subscribers and a cumulative 4,000 hours of watch time, and I'm currently at 3.4 thousand. So theoretically, that's coming soon. Although I do have uh, a PayPal thing. I don't know what the link is off the top of my head. Let's see. If I type this in, will it work? Yeah. Theoretically, if you wanted to, uh, this link here would allow you to donate money to me, but by no means feel obligated unless you know, like watching me have dumb bugs. um, so let's see. It seems quite popular among programmers who live stream on Twitch or YouTube to have some sort of small animations or games to engage the chat. Yeah, I've also been pondering it. Maybe you guys can give me, what you think on this of maybe Twitch streaming on Twitch instead, or simulcasting to Twitch. There's a restream service that would send the stream both ways. Uh, it seems like discoverability of streamers is perhaps a tiny bit better on Twitch than it is on YouTube. But by the same token, Twitch is very popular, so maybe it's actually easier to find things on YouTube because there's less contention, but it doesn't really surface things as well. I'm not entirely sure how well that all goes, but it seems like an interesting thing. And I have a Streamlabs account that theoretically has like chat stuff, but I haven't really played too much. Oh, in India, PayPal doesn't work. Oh well, that's okay. Thanks for the kind thoughts, though. I've I've often thought maybe I should put this in my YouTube descriptions in case somebody wants to contribute, but I don't really make YouTube videos because I'm trying to make $1 million. It's another avenue for me to be able to help people with Sublime, and it gives me an extra added excuse to play with it myself. Uh, so let's see. This is a specification of allowable file types should be a two tuple. So this might be Camtasia project, and this would be star.tsc proj, like so. One of the things I could potentially do for future streams is have the HDMI thing and one of my Windows laptops off to the side and maybe inject some Windows stuff in here as well. Something to, for purposes such as this, that might actually be handy. Transducer says you made Sublime handy for us. Love from India. Oh, thanks so much, guys. I have noticed that a lot of people that have been subscribing to the channel for the last little while are from your part of the world. Not necessarily just India, but just sort of, I guess, basically not Canada and the U.S. for a large proportion of the audience there. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but anybody that I'm helping, I am so happy that that is the case. As I mentioned, on the other channel there, Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined that over 1,000 people would be interested in the stuff that I do on here. I originally thought that, I could make YouTube videos and then if someone asks a question in the forum or on Stack Overflow, I could provide a link to the video because it's a little bit easier to sometimes to see something rather than just read a description of it. But uh, the the acceptance of people is mind-boggling to me, such as it is. Um, okay, oops, fix that. So we're past that. Oh, a directory. Uh, the directory to open the file dialog too. If not specified, we'll use the directory of the current view. Hmm. Well, maybe we'll just leave that out then, shall we? Whoops, I went too far. If not specified. Okay, so let's say we throw none in there. If not specified. Multi-select, select multiple files. No. And and Victor says, I prefer tutorials over docs. I do as well. I mean, I am the first to admit that when I get a new gadget or I'm even thinking of getting a new gadget, one of the first things to do is run and see if there's a manual so that I can look at it and see all of the stuff that it can do. But as soon as I get my hands on something, I just want to play with it and watch it and or get hands-on experience and watch like videos of people working with the same thing because I learn better by doing and seeing than I do by reading. But I do like to read the stuff because, well, nerd. But also, I find that it's good to have sort of just a memory in the back of your head for things that you can do, and then it helps for when you're solving a problem to sort of have that. Oh, you know what? I think I remembered seeing something in the API about being able to prompt for a file, and then you can find it in the documentation. For HyperHelp, you could probably add a feature to right-click and copy the function signature as a snippet. That would actually be pretty handy. You should add an issue for that on the HyperHelp core repository. I'll stop bothering now. Trust me, you're not bothering me. This is the sort of I actually was pondering what can I do in HyperHelp because I there's still so much stuff that I want to do with it. But I'm holding off on some of that because the way that dependencies work is going to change when the next version of package control comes out to be able to support these new builds because there's the two plugin hosts. So because the core is a dependency, I don't want to do too much until I know what shape that's going to take. But there's still some stuff I could do, and I was trying to think of things that I could sort of tack on there, but I couldn't really think of anything. Although one of the things I do want to have is the ability to link an image and have it display in here, because that's sort of handy for documentation as well, which is theoretically pretty easy to do. Displaying an image as a phantom, it would have to be as a part of a package resource, which is easily get addable. But the tricky part is coming up with a syntax for it in the help file. So I sort of put that one off to the side, such as it is. And a callback to accept the result. If the user cancels, none is passed if a file is selected. Okay, so this could just be something like lambda f print f, for example. And just like that, whoosh, we could pick this right on. I wanted to contribute to HyperHelp for a while now. Maybe now is a good time. Yeah, that I'm always, despite the fact that it it, it seems like I, don't accept contributions from people, realistically, no one really offers any. Not that I'm saying that that's a problem for anybody in particular. I don't think most of my packages are super popular, such as it is. They're very specifically focused. They're not like, say, LSP that everybody can use. Not everybody cares to create an override or track them. But when you want that functionality, it's like totally there for you. So except for some issues that were people that have used the package have noticed things, I haven't really seen a lot of action on that. But Again, I'm happy that people like the packages as much as I'm excited that people like the videos. As a matter of fact, if you didn't notice, Override Audit 2.2.2 went out earlier today. And then various Git repositories got force pushed for a lot of other tracking branches. This does exactly what we want it to do, potentially except for the part where the directory we pass shouldn't be none. So Victor says, I'd like to contribute in Override Audit too. Oh, well, the more the merrier. If you have any ideas for features or you want to submit code or patches or anything, please feel free. Yeah, sorry. I was a little distracted there. Whoops. I welcome contributions from anybody and everybody. It's a great way to interact with the community as well. What was I going to do? I want to say Python get user home directory because I'm pretty sure there's a very quick way to do that. Come on, you. Right on. We want to do this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to say import OS. And then this is going to be os.path.expand user tilde. So it opens in my home directory instead. Does this work? No. But that does, theoretically. Cool. Create your own DC server. What's a DC server? I don't think I'm familiar with that. Oh, Discord? Is that what you meant by that? I've actually pondered that, but could be interesting. As part of my rise to fame, my viewership on my YouTube channel will go from 1,000 users to 1,000,000 users, and then I'll have a Patreon, and I can quit my job and just do Sublime Text full time. Live the dream, I say. Yeah, Discord. Yeah, I may ponder doing that very thing for providing support and such. How can we utilize this in this command? Technically speaking, this could be extracted out. So let's do this. Let's comment this out for now and delete this because that's just going to bug me. Really? Yeeps. Okay, now get talk from file name, and then we can just do this. Oh, no, not that way. This. Oops. Let's zoom that for a second. Grab all of this. Paste it here. Undent it. Data is this, so let's see. We don't need any of that business or that. We just decode the content that we're given. Get the table of contents, grab that, and then return this. I'll cut this part out. And if that happens, return none, like so. So now we have that. So we can just say in this thing, result equals get talk for this bit here. We'll just go ahead and cram all of this stuff out. Whoops. We don't need to do that or any of that stuff. And then we can say if result is, well, actually we could just say is if result, right? If result is not none, do this. Else, do this. And Victor says, I learned programming via YouTube more than from college. Hey, well, good for you. I've I I may have mentioned this in a past stream. Got my first computer when I was in grade 5, which I would have been 10 at the time. So I taught myself basic on that particular system, ColecoVision Atom, and then on Commodore 64 and VIC-20s. And then as I was approaching, what grade would I have been? Grade 10, I think. I got my hands on Turbo Pascal at school, and the school was teaching me how to use Pascal, but I spent more time learning myself with books I got from the library because the internet did not exist way back then. And then when uh, after a couple of years, I taught myself C, and then I went to college and they taught us Pascal and they taught us C, but I already knew both of those languages from all of the time I'd spent. So technically, the only programming language I learned and in college was COBOL, and I don't remember that one because I refused to use it. College of Engineering, indeed. Okay, so I think this should still work the same as it did before. So this version of the command can get it directly out of um, a buffer if you had a file open. Hope no one from our college sees this. Yeah, I made a lot of friends in college, but mostly I just remember it as being forced to learn COBOL and take a lot of business courses like accounting and marketing that I wasn't necessarily interested in at the time. I guess going into business such as it is, that's actually helpful because my day job is in the financial industry. I write server software and stuff that talks directly to stock exchanges and receives real time data and prices things and distributes it. So a lot of the accounting stuff actually came in handy. But at the time, I was very perturbed by being forced to learn stuff about balance sheets when I wanted to be writing cool C programs instead. Uh, we're going to do this. Actually, this could be an application command because we only need one of them. And we're going to say file name equals none. So here's my thought. This command that already exists is one that's in the command palette. Get Camtasia talk, and it's bound to a key. So if I had a file open, I could pick that and it would copy it directly to the clipboard. This one is going to prompt the user, pardon me, we'll copy this bit out, for a file name if one isn't provided, and then open the file, pull the string out, and then do the exact same thing so that you can prompt the user for a file instead of having to have it opened first. Because for my own use case, I'm going to have to be prompted by a file dialog to be able to find the file in the first place. So I can make my life more sublime by cutting a couple of steps out of there and having the file I pick just be the thing that's used, which is something that we couldn't do prior to build 4075 when the ability to prompt the user for something was actually provided. In Sublime 3 and earlier builds of Sublime 4, the only way to do something like this would be to create your own quick panel or thing in the command palette that actually basically implement your own file browser by browsing for files, which is a drag and a half. Uh, I actually worked on something like that once. As a matter of fact, for one of my November projects, I replicated the code that gathers files for the sidebar and applies all of the various filters, which is probably slightly out of date now that the filters have changed. We're going to do this. Actually, do this. I keep hearing sounds from the other room, but I don't know what's actually causing them. I think my wife's computer, someone may be talking to her on an instant messenger or something. So we're going to say this is self.openFile. That'll be called with the file name. Camtasia projects in the user home directory. And despite the fact that this is a Unixism, this will actually work across all platforms. So I think this ends up to be like C user or C users, OdatNurd or whatever. If you're on Windows, your home directory. If you're on Linux, in your home directory. If you're on Mac OS, we don't want multiple files, and we don't want the user to be able to select a directory. So if the file name is none, invoke that to prompt, and OpenFile is going to get the file name. And what we could do is actually this. We could Sublime run command Camtasia browse for contents and provide it the file name. But we could also just re-invoke our own run method. And since this isn't normally, you wouldn't want to do something like that. Like, for example, you can't do it for a text command because you can't get an edit object unless Sublime calls it for you. But for our own purposes here, we could just do this, which should do the exact thing that we want. And I guess if that's the case, we don't even need that, do we? We could just do that. Now that I think about it, doing it that way. Browsing, oops, and file name. All we need now is to add this to the command palette too, and I totally have that here. Let's bump it over here. Camtasia, we'll change this one to browse for contents instead. So if I pick this and then pick a file, could be any particular file, doesn't really matter. Well, maybe that does not quite do what we want, huh? Oh, how about I do this? Because it should probably actually do that when the file name's not none, right? Yeah, we'll pick this video, which for some reason is in my home directory from 2018. That's not disturbing at all. Yeah, all right, cool. So it's actually going to execute this thing now. Now, who remembers how to open files and read their contents? Instead of hitting enter, a mouse click on the next line should make the cursor go there. Not sure what exactly you mean. Instead of hitting enter, a mouse click on the next line should make the cursor go there. Isn't that what it does? If you could, I don't think I quite understand what it is that you're saying there. Try. Let's yeah. Hello, Ben. It's going fairly well. We're playing with various things to make Camtasia be a little bit nicer to work with. I have created a command that takes a Camtasia project file and with this particular information, and then at the press of a key, well, it's doing the wrong thing now. But a second ago, it was totally doing the correct thing. How did I break that? Click below 52. Oh, something like that. Did I swap that too? No, I don't think I did I? Well, oh. I did that twice. I should not have done that twice. Right. I forgot. When I refactored it, I moved that part up there. This part doesn't need to turn the new line separated string into new line separated strings. It does that. Line 56 now. Are you saying that clicking on the bottom below the last line in the file should do something? With let's say we want result is equal to I think Victor is suggesting that clicking on the last line could add another line. Like clicking here would add another line to the bottom of the file. I imagine you could do that with the plugin. You can detect when mouse clicks are happening with the drag select command. So I suppose if the drag select command finished executing and the selection was at the start of the last line, you could insert another line. Let's tweak this first and then see if we can come up with something to do that, if that's what you intended. Is this the way you read the entire below that? You can't read clicking outside of the last line of the file, if that's what you mean. At least as far as I'm aware. Maybe Ben has secret information about something like that. But there's no way, I think, to distinguish between me clicking way down here and me clicking on that line. So theoretically, they would both do the same thing. There's not a way to detect clicks in areas that don't have any text. Like even clicking way over here, that's why the selection jumps to the end, because there's not any white space here. Yeah, there's no way to, except for just adding a new line to the bottom of the file, there's no way to do that as far as I'm aware. Let's try that. What did I call this again? Look at that, I totally remembered how to do a thing. I am continually amazed with my ability to remember the weirdest things. And then we could just copy this bit out. And maybe indent it as such. If I pick that, and pick this. Oh yeah, I guess I should probably make it smarter, huh? Why do I never notice these things? Maybe something like that will work a little better. Sweet. Okay, so there's another way to do the same thing. Now I guess this would be something that I could use from that other thing. So I don't think I necessarily need any action for that, but if I was to pick one of these things, I could just do this. I guess theoretically, there's one other thing I could do to that to make that a little bit different. Go away. I'm canceling you. Uh-oh. I think I did something unfortunate. Here, I'm going to open this GIF file and then it's going to get all mad. What the hell did I do to make that unhappy? Oh. Ha ha ha. Okay, yeah, there is a reason why I didn't do that. Let's do it this way. Because otherwise that's going to sit in an infinite loop, right? And I'm probably going to change that because I really don't like invoking the run method, even though in this case it's probably mostly harmless. But we want another argument here. Oh, I guess we want to do that slightly differently anyway. We can do this. Sublime.run. Oops. Oh, okay. If I'm going to do that multiple times, I'm tweaking it. Because, yeah, okay. That's just going to be irritating. Run command insert with characters of result. We don't need to do that part. Yeah. I think what Michael Dawson's getting at there, Victor, is if you turn on command logging, you could click below the file to see what it's doing. But I would imagine that what you're going to see is a drag select command, if anything. But yeah, I would imagine. Actually, that's kind of interesting. Victor says it's not detecting. I would have guessed that you might see uh, event information that tells you the lower part of the file, even though there's not any actual stuff there. And text point or the thing that changes the window position to a text layout would probably give you the last bit. But I've never actually played with that. Okay, so if we do this now, oh shoot, hang on. I forgot what I was doing there. Shoot. We want that. If the insert argument is provided, insert it directly, otherwise copy it to the clipboard. And we find that command palette entry and throw an args for insert to be true. So if I was to select all of this and then pick this and then pick this, didn't like that. Drag select event button 1. Yeah. Actually, that's sort of intriguing. Does the Y value increase going down in the window even if you click further below the last line? Maybe you could use that to figure out what line you're actually clicking on and then add enough blank lines to the bottom of the file to go there. That would probably work. Unlike this. So it's a good thing I don't have the woohoo sound set up yet. What I can do is click a button and take us to the color bars. But that's probably not interesting here. Did it say it was inserting something there? It didn't, did it? It said it copied it to the clipboard. Did I not save that? Oh, right. Maybe if I wouldn't be in such a dupe. We need to pass this. Oh. Usually do something like that. Probably should have defaulted that file name to be something more readable. There. That's actually pretty sweet as far as making my life better go. And I really got to remember to update the version of this package on my Windows laptop because I forgot how cool it is to be able to actually see the thumbnail that's associated with these things. All right. So I think that's pretty much what I wanted for that. And there's only so much that I could do to this otherwise. Michael says, I get a larger Y value even if there's only one line in the file. The trick will be determining the location of the file's last line. Yeah, there's a, can never remember, not text point, view layout, window to layout, I think. Takes a vector, converts it to a to a text point. Yeah. I would imagine you want to do something like if you use get the viewport extent and then get the line height, you can tell how many lines there are inside of the file. And then as long as that value falls somewhere inside of the viewport extents, you could extrapolate that to what line it was actually clicked on. And then you could figure out how many lines there actually are in the file and know how far below that point you are, if you are at all, so that you know to insert lines, but you also need to know what line is currently displayed at the top of the buffer so that you know how far down the bottom click actually is to be able to determine the actual line number of the thing, which is also possible because you can figure out which part of the layout is actually visible right now in the window. Viewport position would tell you the offset of the viewport in there, and based on that and the line height, you can figure what line is at the top of the buffer. Remembering that that can be fractional because it's possible to have a fractional part of a line scrolled, then you could totally do something like that. But the stream is going to end in 13 minutes, and I don't think I can pull something like that off. But that is actually a neat idea for an upcoming stream, to try and pull something like that off, unless I get bored during the week and try to do something like that. So, but that is that is in fact an intriguing idea. I wonder. Now that I think about it, I think somebody on the forum mentioned at some point that they wanted to be able to click to the right of a line and have the cursor go there with virtual spaces. And I guess they're probably doing something similar to that, or could do something similar to that. You could use the X to figure out where you would have been on that line and then see if you need to insert spaces on it. And then I guess keep a record that you did it. So when the cursor is, or so when the selection is modified, you know to undo any white space you added to the end of the line unless there was another modification. There's a lot of neat stuff you could do for something like that, I guess. I've always liked the idea that the caret only goes inside of the bounds of where the text actually is myself. Now that I have this version of the command, I'm not necessarily sure I care about the one where it takes it out of the buffer, because I can't imagine I'd ever want to open one of these things first to be able to do it. Um, so maybe we just go ahead and remove that one entirely in favor of that one and give this one the name of this one. Like this. And then this thing would have to change too. This is get contents. This would be get. To get a little something like that going, we don't need this part in here. That's kind of crunky. And I suppose technically that should be in my YouTuberizer package, but it doesn't technically need to be. It would be handy to have it in there. Then I'd have to change the name of the thing. Also, this should probably be slightly configurable to have a configuration other than your user home directory, because for my own purposes, all my packages, all my files are stored in of one specific part of the hard drive, and the less browsing you have to do, the better everybody's life is. Although it also remains to be seen whether or not this will filter files as appropriate. I can't imagine why it wouldn't, though. I think the last time I played with this, I was fiddling with it on my Windows laptop. This is an interesting thing that it took this long to pull something to pull this off. Although there has been a lot of chat, which, by the way, awesome. Thanks so much, everybody, for showing up there. Uh, Yeah. The other idea I had for something to do tonight, but I don't think we're going to have enough time to do so, was replacing parts of a file manager with my own command so that I don't have to use that package anymore. Ben says, love the glow. I tell you, I think I've mentioned this in the Discord, but this is totally a thing I added because glow was added. And I thought, oh, I got to put that on something and see. I'll just throw it on, entity name in Python. And then it really grew on me. And I was actually quite bummed for that brief period where rendering of it was broken and I had to turn it off. Things didn't look right until the fix came out and I could re-enable that in my color scheme to add it back in there. It really adds a nice little something something, I gotta say. Now, if there was some sort of sparkle property that made little particles fizz off of it, ooh, then you could really make your methods pop. How difficult to have it remember your last selected folder? Actually, that would probably not be very hard at all, I would imagine. Um, we could say something like last folder is none. And then we could say something like last folder equals last folder or this. And we'll cut this and replace it with last folder. Whoops. So let's go ahead and fix that stupid bug before I even hit it. Yes, Ashwin says, I think we can thank Ben for that. Ben is totally the one that spearheaded the glow operation. Although, as I recall, I think somebody said something about it in the forum, and then he just sort of came along later and posted a picture of it, and everybody's jaws dropped on the floor. I think that was before the new builds were announced in the Discord, too, if I remember, because I don't think I distinctly remember someone saying, "How did you make it do that?" And Keith responded with, he probably has access to the source code because he's one of the Sublime developers. uh, the silliest things make me chuckle sometimes. So if this works this way, then what is a magic thing for pulling the path off of a file? Dir name? Is that the business? Oops. Import OS. Yep, cool. I remember us adding that in like half an hour, mostly as a meme. I'm pretty sure the builds were out at the time. Were they? Oh, yeah. I don't remember being able to play with it right away, but the ability to add underline to things sort of passed by without a lot of fanfare, as I recall. People were more excited about making things glow. I think because of that Visual Studio package where as you type, the whole screen visibly shakes and particles fly off, so you can really get the most out of your stuff. I think this will do the thing of remembering the last folder. So it starts off with a property that's none, and whenever it's prompting you, it will use either the last folder or if there isn't one, your home directory, and then it stores the folder of the file name that you chose and would then use it again next time. So if I picked that, do I actually have a folder I could look inside of here? Got a lot of crap in here. I'm gonna pick this. Oh no, don't pick that. That's pretty big. That's not too bad. Okay. Yeah, what a surprise. You can't decode a tarball. I'm not entirely surprised by that. But yeah, I totally remembered the path. So as the simplest step, instead of this defaulting to none, it could default to the value of a setting instead. Imagine memes becoming a part of Sublime Text life. Sublime Text is life, man. See previous parts of the stream where people may or may not be addicted to doing anything and everything in a Sublime Text plugin when it could just as easily be a simple Python script. But then I'd have to open a command prompt and run a command in it. And it seems like it's much cooler to just push this key and get it this way because Sublime's always open anyhow. Yeah. I think it could be a setting. Well, Ben says we had a short conversation about adding that actually. Could be done entirely as a post-process shader, but it was a little bit too much work. Oh, actually making the whole screen ripple and shake and stuff as you're typing. I gotta say, you might need a little bit of normal mapping in there. Sure, this text glows, but what if it was bump mapped so that it was actually physically protruding from the window? With various levels of bump map so that class names could be more pronounced and beveled than methods. Man, that'd actually be kind of neat, wouldn't it? I mean, it sounds like it might be silly, but you know, glow turned out pretty awesome. If we wanted to do something like this with a setting, how might we set that? Oh, that is a good question. Sublime 3D, yeah. I'm kind of surprised that there's not, one of these little visual pop-out panel choosers. I think somebody mentioned wanting something like that to be able to swap through panels in the panel chooser. I can't remember if that was in the forum or on the Discord. Probably the Discord. I've never really been a super fan of that operation though. Sublime in VR. That would be pretty neat. If there's anything that could get me to buy an Oculus, it would probably be something like that. Although I guess that's not the Oculus that has hand controls, right? That's like the Vive or something. Imagine, trying to hold those and type inside your virtual thing. Would you implement a big virtual keyboard that you have to walk along and punch with your hands in order to type text? The thing you're talking about, letters protruding, is actually a trending topic in design of late called new morphism. Really? Look at that. I totally know what I'm talking about. Hee. That only comes about because I have done very little with actual 3D shaders, and that was like, I think, the only thing, applying a normal map. Uh, and at that, I like followed a tutorial and tried to try to follow all of the magic of the fragment shaders, and then decided that 3D is not where my brain is at. Tea's gone. We're only done to coffee now. Let us. Let's say we actually do want to have a setting for this. How would we actually apply it here? I guess we would need some logic in here that sets it to the last folder or the value of the setting or your home directory if the setting's not set, right? Would you set something like this in your user preferences? Probably. Let's say preferences.sublime settings. And then think a think in the mind and it types code. That sort of thing sounds great in theory, but so does being able to talk into your phone and have it transcribe it into text. And that never seems to go the way I want it to. So I'm afraid that if it was trying to read my mind and type stuff, something even more awful would appear. It's not that I don't trust AI, I just think that it's untrustworthy. Uh, uh, I think something like that would do what we want. Load the user preferences, get the value of the Camtasia folder or default it to your home directory if it's not present, and then the last folder is the last folder used or that one. Although I guess we could probably even optimize that further, right? By doing this. This is one of those cases where I'm like, is it better to have another variable here just so that these two lines fall within the 80 column boundary? Or is it nicer to do it that way and it's a little bit longer and maybe you got to wrap the line and then other stuff happens? I don't know where I necessarily fall on that, but there was a discussion earlier in the Discord about code formatting and things being opinionated, and I tried using PEP for a while, PEP 8, and it was too opinionated for me. It got angry about a lot of stuff that I like to do, so I decided I don't want you, PEP. I want my code to be ugly and unreadable. Or at least I like to think that it's, readable. Not that you could tell from live streams because I tend to, work. I follow the mantra of make it work, then make it pretty, because it doesn't matter how delightfully concise your code is if it doesn't actually do the thing that you wanted it to do. This should still prompt me for in my home directory, but if I'd added this, as an example, then, nope, that didn't work. Shoot. Did that actually? Okay, what did I do wrong here? Let's print this and see. Oh, we're going to play it like that, are we? Jerk. Did I not save this plugin after I did that? I hate indentation errors when I program and copy and paste from Stack Overflow. Yeah, there's actually a paste and indent command in Sublime. Uh, can't remember what it is off the top of my head. If you use Control Shift V instead of Control V, if you copy stuff and paste in, that might make your life a little bit better. I never think to use that myself, though. Mostly I just, grab some text and bump it if I need to. Okay, now I'm just going to be weirded out by why that didn't work the first time I did it. Oh, because I'd probably already ran the plugin and got it to remember something, right? Like that. But once I save that, it'll go to the right folder. Yeah. All right, that makes sense. So it's going to keep remembering the actual last one the way I told it to. It only resets it to the default when the plugin reloads and it loses sight of that. Although I guess this could be theoretically slightly cooler if it actually had some sort of settings watcher, and if you saw the setting change, it could make sure to use that. But there's only so much excitement in that particular regard. But in any case, how easy is it to get it to remember the last folder? Actually, pretty easy. Remember, for text commands, there's one instance created for every view. For window commands, there's one created for every window. And for application commands, there's one instance created ever, presuming, all else being equal for plugins being reloaded, which causes command classes to maybe go away and come back again. So if you want per instance data, you can indeed use instance variables to stash them like that, with the proviso that you always have to be prepared to have them be gone because they clearly don't persist after plugin loads or after restarts. And I think Will mentioned at some point in the Discord that it's theoretically possible for plugins or command classes to be recreated even outside of plugins being reloaded. So there's that to take away as well. But I think, what do we got here? I think it is time to call it a night because I stayed up far too late last night and I'm feeling the effects today, which is why I made 2 cups of coffee for this stream, and uh, it is not having the effect that one might like. So I think we're going to call it for there. Thanks so much for watching. I think next week, um, 2 ideas for topics. One, the other thing I wanted to do, which is create a simple command to create a new file based on the current folder or other location. Basically, my idea is a command that will prompt you in the command palette, or sorry, in the input panel at the bottom of the window, and expand things like folder and file path and the other standard window variables, and create the full path up to the file that you create, and then open it, which is one of pretty much if I'm honest, the only reason I have the file manager package installed, and then I could remove it because every now and then my console gets just absolutely slammed with error messages from that thing. And I don't think the developer is actively maintaining it anymore. He hasn't been around for a long while. I think he might have moved on to another editor or something. And also the example that was put in the chat here of a command that theoretically might allow you to click below the bottom of a file and get a bunch of blank lines appended to the end to make sure that you can click there. Or maybe just, click anywhere where there's not text and insert the appropriate text to be able to click the cursor at that particular location. Might be a fun thing to try. And what's this? I've never seen that before. In any case, thanks so much for watching. Remember, you can use the buttons down below to subscribe and ring the bell notification icon. You'll get a notification when I'm going to go live, which is generally every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific. And down in the description below is a link to my other channel. Regular tutorials drop Mondays at 9 o'clock a.m. PST, whatever that is in your respective time zones. You can also always ring the bell notification icon, and then YouTube will tell you whenever such a video arrives. Until then, thanks so much for watching. Thank you, Michael. Michael said, cool stream tonight. I aim to please, and perhaps this week I will also get on the idea of a woohoo and a dough thing for the stream, so that when I have a minor triumph, we can celebrate it in style. But until then, this is OdatNurd. Thanks for watching, and have a sublime day or night, depending on what part of the world you are currently living in.